Yeah, and then we reached time control somewhere around here, and I think I was very surprised when he decided to play this end game, because I thought this whole end game was very good, and then I just went wrong here. Basically, I should have played knight d6. I was looking at knight c3 and knight d6, and frankly, I think I was just a little bit tired, so I missed this idea in the game. Or after knight c3, he can play f4. I think if I go knight d6, it's very unpleasant, and it's one way. I mean, probably it's a draw, but only I can win. But then as soon as I played knight c3, and he went f4, I mean, I was actually in my mind thinking, I remember there was this game, was it like 2019 maybe, between Magnus and Alireza in Norway chess, I think it was, where the game was a draw most of the way. Even at the end in the king and pawn endgame, it was a draw, and but Alireza was very nervous and he was shaking a lot. I think Magnus even mentioned this, and so like somewhere around here, Alireza was starting to shake again, and I had this feeling that he thought he was also playing for more. He thought everything was up in the air. I mean, I was more than ready to make this draw somewhere around here. Yeah, if he found this f5, which by the way I was very surprised by, because I thought he would just go into his endgame. I expected something like this, rook e5, knight a4. I mean, there's so many different ways to play this, but even something simple like this, just takes and rook g5, and I thought that, I mean, the game goes on forever, but it'll be a draw, of course. But then he played f5, and now I knew already here this was not going to be simple. I mean, I still have to be very, very accurate here, because knight f4, I don't know if it's playable, but I mean, already here I just wanted to make the draw with rook takes d4, takes, and rook f5. But again, I could tell from the body language of Alireza that he was trying to play for everything. And actually what happened in the game, in this endgame, my initial intention was to just go knight b2 and make a simple draw, like knight b2, king f2, knight a4, rook a8, I guess, and something like knight c3, and just make the draw and go home. And then I realized that I could play knight f4, and it's a situation where it's very tricky, because if I'm wrong here, because I mean I don't have enough time to calculate the endgame, but if I'm wrong I probably lose the game because I lose a5. But if I'm right, I can also win with the split pawns. So yeah, I mean I played knight f4. I basically in my head flipped a coin and decided to gamble with knight f4, because I basically thought that kind of what happened in the game, something like this, even king e1. I figured at the very worst, there's probably some way to, like, I don't know, get back with the king or something, maybe get back somehow. And I thought I should still have a draw. That was my assumption. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe this is already actually losing. But that's what I thought. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it with d3. And yeah, I played king f2. Which I think is okay, but the problem is, like, also I think Alireza, he was ready for me to go knight b2 and for the game to end in a draw, and then suddenly it's very unclear, because now suddenly again there's no simple draw in this position after king e3 and g4. Like, this still probably is a draw here with like rook d8 maybe, but it's very tricky. I mean, it's very tricky, and when you're expecting it to just end with knight b2, knight a4, change the pawns on the a file,
yeah, and suddenly you have to work more.
Yeah, and suddenly, like, I mean, sort of this endgame. I mean, not to like. Sound too cocky, but I felt a little bit like Magnus here, where it's some endgame where it should just be dead, you're just moving, draw, and then suddenly you have to wake up again, and you realize it's very, very tricky. Yeah, and I mean, he got down to 1 second, and they blundered with king d3. I mean, yeah, this just loses, because of course, after rook g8, I simply have g2, and I have the fork with knight to f4, and I win the game, basically. I mean, he played check, I went king e6, and then he resigned. I mean, he can play rook h8, but after g2, takes king f7. I mean, just check, and king g8. There's no way to stop me from queening, and so it's just
basically after king d3, it's already totally lost for white.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit lucky, but it happens.
Yeah, and you recently, in recent years, you seem pretty much relaxed during the tournaments. Comparing to maybe 10 years ago when you were more tense, and it was obvious and it was visual. So why is it like this? Is it connected to your streaming or something else?
Everybody knows about all that, so I don't think we need to keep talking about it. But what I would say is today's game actually reminds me a lot of a game that I lost in 2016. There was this game I played against Levon Aronian where I think it was a rook and pawn endgame, and I think I was much worse at the start. Then I was equal, then I was worse, and I got to this endgame where I think it was 3 versus 2, and it should have been a draw. And then I blundered and lost the game. And that's kind of what this game reminds me a lot of. Of course, on this one I was on the right side, but I think it's just candidates. People get nervous. Things happen. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to have fun. And actually, kind of yesterday before this game, I was just listening to some stuff on YouTube, and I think it was there's this guy Tony Robbins, and one of the videos that I was watching, he said something about basically like, it's like success without enjoyment is basically ultimate failure, essentially. And so, I mean, for large parts of the game today, I was thinking to myself, just like make sure you enjoy it. You never know how many more chances you'll have to play in such an event. So you might as well have fun. And even if it doesn't go your way, just have fun and enjoy it. And yeah, I actually was enjoying today's game a lot. So yeah, it's all good.